Okay. Here we have Java method which takes two integer arrays and compare the elements. This should return true if all the elements in A are present in B, and the order of elements may differ, right? So if the order is same, then it is really easy to compare, right? The first comparison you need to do is, so here your first approach should be compare for the length of both the arrays, length of both the arrays. Okay. Arrays. Second thing is, there are two approaches. First, if the order of the elements is same, then you can start a for loop and do it until the length of the array and compare corresponding elements. Okay, so but here this will not work because it might be in a different order, right? So what we can do, first thing is, this will not work because the element might be at some other position, some other index also. Next is sort both the arrays and then repeat step 2, right? Then do step 2, I would say, not repeat, right? So when you sort the arrays, so all the elements would be in sorted, so you can compare the corresponding elements. The next logic could be, another logic could be, what you can do, pick one element, pick the first element from array 1 and search it throughout array 2. So we are doing the linear search with the key as the first element. Search it throughout 2. If found, then move to second element. Move to second element. Else, you have to just simply return false. Okay, so this way you can search for all the elements in the first array with the second array. Even if it is repeated, then you have to, there should be another flag. So this may not work if the elements are repeated. Then you have to put a counter also and check for that counter. I'm saying is, for the first element, you are pasting the position, creating the position 1. Fine? Okay. Right? Now this, for the second position, this is 0. What you have, when you are writing the 0, let's say, you would be writing something like Ci is equal to, say, index. This is the index found. Okay. Right? When you are writing, before doing this, you would have check index. This will be a method which will search the index in C. If it is, let's say, if this is true, then it will move on to the next position. That means it will ignore this position and move on to the next position for comparison. So it will not stop at this. It will do the comparison at the next position. Okay. Did you get this? Okay. Okay, Shilpi. Right? So it will move on to the next one. When it is found 0, it will actually, when it is found 0, it will, let's say, it will move on to the next position 5. Then also it will not found. Then it will go to the 1. Now when it is found 1, The position for this is 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, right? So it is 4 and it is not present in there, then it will be writing the next element as 4. Okay?
Okay.
Then it will move on to the next 5, then again do the same process, then it will do this. And it will actually be valid for repeated, so not even 2 times, even if it will be valid for 3 times, like if it's 3 or more times also. Because let's say if you, instead of this, you have like this. So you have the third one element, right? When you have third one element, when it will come here, this position is already present in this array, right? So it will move on to the next element. When it will reach there, this position is also in the array. So it will again move to the next element.
Okay.
Right?
Okay, Shilpi. But the method I've written, it is also working, Shilpi. Like I don't have to use like more than 2 for loops.
Okay. So what you are doing here, you are comparing it with the same element, like the element array of the same element, right?
Yes. And since it increases the first plus.
First means okay, that array, that element is already working.
Yes.
That already present there.
Yeah. Yeah.
And then it compares the num with the second
array.
And it also says second plus plus. But if it has, this will work for first and second, 2 duplicates, like if they are repeated for 2 times. What if it is repeated for 3 times?
Number of times it will work, Shilpi. Because
3 times also it is working?
Yes, it goes to the full array like for each element.
Okay, so it will work, okay, it is incrementing first plus 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 all the time. So it will increase it for the 3 times, third time also.
Yeah.
Okay, fine. So what you are doing, you are comparing how many times that element is present in both the arrays and comparing the size with first and second.
Yes.
That's what you are doing, right?
Yes, yes.
Okay. Wow, this is also good. This is really good. Okay, thanks, Jason.
Okay.
So something. So Sridevi, that is fine, but it is not valid for repeated entry. Otherwise, if it is not repeated, then this works fine. In today's class, we will talk about the certain a package which is called the Java Utils package. And Java Utils, as the name suggests, is a package which includes lots of utility classes. And these classes actually, they don't serve like it's, they might be a different classes, and they really help us to make a program much easier. For example, you have state class, you have string tokenizer, you have some other couple of classes like property classes. So we'll go through a couple of them which you will be using in your test scripts. Here's the properties class. So in Java, like in your program, as we have discussed a lot of times before, the test data might be stored in a different types of files. So generally, you know, we have dot properties file or dot config file. So dot properties is a very it's a different type of file which actually has dot properties extension, which is a character based file only. So either you can write your own program to read this file. So the format of this file is always key is equal to value pair. So if you have key is equal to value pair, for example, you have HR is equal, say your username is equal to HR, and your password is equal to WBQA. Although you can write your own logic to, read these kind of a file and, just split. What you need to do is you need to read this and split it on the basis of equal to. So you'll be writing a lot of logic to do that. But in Java, you have a properties API which can be used directly to read and create such kind of properties file. Okay, so let's write a simple program for this. Okay, so I'm writing, first let me create a package. And in today's class, actually, I would be writing JUnit test cases instead of simple test class. Okay, so say my property. So I am writing this method and reading file from reading a properties file. Read properties, and again you need to pass the path of the file, string path, and this is the API, say properties is equal to new property. So if you see this, import properties java.utils, so this is the package you need to import, and there is a constructor here. You need to create a new file input string, and here you can give the path. Okay, let's create a file input string. Input string in is equal to new file input string. I'm writing the path here, and let's try to import this, and here I would say in. So what does this mean? Is let me first put into try catch. So this throws Java IO exception, and this throws the find not or found exception. So proc.load in means it is loading all the properties and p-value pairs into this properties object. Okay, and once you load it, you can actually read the key set. So you can check whether it contains a value or not, it contains a key or not, or it contains a particular object. Or let's say I want to check for a particular key. So first let's create a dot properties file. So I must be having some dot properties file on my machine. Otherwise, we can create one. Yeah. So we have this. Okay. Example. Say you have username is equal to HR. So always remember dot properties have key value pairs, and password is equal to WBQS. So you can have as many as possible, but all the key value pair are separated by equal to sign. Okay, you just space it. Okay, and then what you need to do? Let's say you want to search for a key, read properties. So the prop dot get property and pass the key here. So key say username, and if you see what does it return? It returns a string. So you can say string username is equal to get property username, and you can print it on the screen. Say username is equal to username. If you want, you can actually get the password also is equal to prop dot get property password. Save it. And what now I'm creating a JUnit class. So I'm creating a package where I will be writing all my JUnit test. So I would say my property test, and I'm creating JUnit 4 class. So I will be using the annotation TEST. So you can import the annotation. So let's say public void test read prop, and here I would be creating the object of this class, my property, my property C is equal to new, and we need to import the package. So whatever we were doing in main to test this method, we will be doing it here also. Okay, so I am just creating the same thing, only I'm using a JUnit. So first I need to add the JUnit 4 library to the build path, and automatically this annotation will be taken care. So if you see this in org.junit.test has been imported, and this library has been added to my project. Okay. Then I would be calling here p.read properties, and let's say I'm returning here something. So once it is going to print it, and okay, and if username is not equal to null, and password is not equal to null, return true. So instead of void, I am returning boolean. Okay, and say the better way to write is RET is equal to false. So always remember, don't put any return. It should be boolean. So here say RET is equal to true, and here say return RET. Okay. So what are we doing here? First, we are reading the properties. We are creating the properties object. We created the input stream. We can write it null here. And in the input stream, we passed the path of the file. We loaded the file into the properties object, and we are just checking whether these properties are present or not. Okay, if they are present, if they are not present, we are just returning is equal to true. So if it's not equal to this, I would say or, then return is equal to false, and I would say else. If both are present, then return is equal to true. So we are checking for both. Even if one is missing, then it should give me a false value. So even I put or here. So even if one is true, it should return false. Okay, otherwise it will return true. Only if it is returning, if both are there, then only it's going to print. Otherwise it will not print. I would say password is equal to password PWD. Method would return true if both the properties are found in the file. It will return false if any one of the property is not found. Okay. So in my test class, so let's move on to the next test class. Here I need to create the path. So I'm giving the path here is equal to, this is the path where my file is present, geo4.properties. This is geo4.properties. Right? And it should, what it returns? It returns true or false. So I would say actual is equal to this. And what we need to assert? We need to assert dot assert true actual. Right? So we need to assert that actual is true, because we need to check whether all these properties are available and they are present in that particular file. So let's run this now. So I will run this as JUnit test. Some assertion failed. Okay, so it is returning false. So let's see why it is returning false. You can see the console also. Okay, nothing is being printed on console. So that means it did not reach this particular code. So it failed here only. So to debug this, let's say I don't know at which line of code this particular method is failing. So what I'll do, I'll run this in debug mode. This should you also need to know as a QA tester how to debug your code. So what I'll do, I'll put a breakpoint here, and I would run this test in debug mode. So I would go here, say run, and I would say debug as JUnit test. see how my perspective would change now. Okay, so it took me to this particular place, and let's go to the next step. So I'm clicking on this arrow. It will just give me the objects that are created and the value of that object in this window. So this is called the variables or the watch window. So every IDE has this kind of a window where you can see the value for a variable which is currently created. Okay, so let's move on. Okay, so you can actually put here and see what is the value of this. So if you see here username is equal to HR has been retrieved. Okay, so it has to be actually and instead of or. So let me change to Java perspective. Okay, I forgot this. If it is this is equal to null or this is equal to null, then return is equal to false, otherwise returns true. Okay, so this was the mistake we were doing in the logic. So debugging your code is very important. You should know how to debug your code because it tells you exactly what are the values each variable is having, so that you can find it at what line or what statement the wrong values are being taken, and you can change the logical errors also. So now we can run it this test program from here. Okay. Now if you see this, the program has run without any errors and username and password have been printed. Third is reading from a property file, and this will return true if both the properties are present and false if not. Okay. So we created a properties object. Now, Trisha, let me know if you don't understand any statement. Yeah. Okay. We are creating a properties object. Okay. Right now, this properties object does not contain anything. It's an empty object. Okay.
So where is this properties object? Like where have we created? Is there a class where we have?
It's properties object is properties class is already defined in Java Utils. Okay.
Okay.
To facilitate reading from .properties file.
Okay.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
So then we are creating, because we need to read it from a file, we need to create a file input stream object. Okay. Yeah. So what we are creating an input stream, and we are initializing creating the object of file input stream, and we are passing the path. So this is how we are opening the file. Okay. Right?
Mm-hmm.
Once we open the file handle would be in. So we are passing the file handle in the properties object. So what we are doing here, it is this step is reading from the .properties file and loading all the properties into this properties object. So now this property object contains all the key value pairs. Okay. This entire thing is in the properties object now.
Okay.
Okay. Now in the next step, we are just searching for a particular key and getting its value. So get property is a method which will search for this particular key, and it is getting if it is able to find that particular key, the value will be stored in this string.
Okay.
Okay. So same the case we are doing for password also. We are searching for this key in this properties object and storing it the value in PWD.
Okay.
Okay. Now in the next step, since we were supposed to have both the properties, If this is not found, it will return null. So let's say for some reason I'm trying to find username 1. So in that case, this would be null because username 1 is not there.
Right.
Right? So if any of the 1 is null, then it should return false and it should not print on console.
Right.
Okay, so that's what we are doing here. We are printing only when both are found. So if you see this, only in the else statement we are printing and we are returning is equal to true. Otherwise, it should return false only.
Okay.
Okay.
Yeah.
So now coming back to the test class, we created a test method. We wrote a method which returns void. So our all the JUnit test methods, they return void. Then we have we created a name for this method and we created the my properties object, just like we used to create in the main method we used to create an object, right?
Yeah.
Like my operations or something, whatever we were doing. So if we want to call a method, we need to create the object of that method, right?
Yeah.
So we are creating my properties object. So this is the my properties class that we created. Then I'm passing the creating a string which is the path of the properties file, and then I'm passing that read properties into that. And what it is returning? It is returning true or false. So this is the actual value which is being returned.
So it will contain all the values like whatever are
No,
there?
this is a boolean. This is a boolean value. So what it is doing? It is either returning true or false.
Right. Yeah.
Okay. And what are we asserting here? What are we expecting? We are expecting true, right? So we are assert true that actual is true.
Okay.
If the actual is false, then my test case would fail.
Right. Yeah.
Okay. So that's how we are doing it. So let's try to change this to username 1. So now username 1 is not present. So my test case should pass or fail.
Fail, right?
Yeah. So what I'll do, let's run this. And now the test case has failed. And what is the exception that it has thrown? Assertion failed error. This is also very important to understand the exception which is thrown when your assertion fails. So if you try to put this into try catch block, so a lot of times what happens, let's say in real world, you have to log these failures somewhere, right? When you are running the test cases, let's say there is a on the screen or in a log file, you need to log whether this particular test case has passed or failed, right? How will you log? You
So
can put this into try catch.
Okay.
Try catch. And what is the error that has been, what is the exception? Assertion failed error. So we will catch this assertion failed error. And here you can actually print your customized message. So you can say test read prop failed. Okay. So now let's try to run this again. Now here it is showing passed, but in your log file it is mentioning it is failed. Okay.
Oh, yeah,
but here if you want to make it fail also, let's say when assertion failed error, you want to make it fail also, just call fail. So now if you run this, it will fail also and put it into like it will throw the exception also. Let's call this before that so that it prints also and fail the test. Okay. So this is the way how we log the failed test cases. In the main method, all these steps would be same, right?
Right. Yeah.
but instead of this, what will you do? Write if actual is equal to true without test read property failed, right?
Right. Yeah.
Okay, so that is not a very maintainable code. So for one test case, it could be fine. But let's say there are more than one test cases. There are 10 test cases.
Okay.
So what will happen if one is, so it will not go to the next. It is really hard to manage. How will you see? Here you can easily see if I have to write another test case, I would simply write another add the test notation and I will add another test case. Okay, and it will here also tells me like how many methods that it has called, how many test methods. I don't have to comment if let's say I don't want to run a particular method. I generally what we did in the last classes. Let's say my exceptions basic. What I was doing, I was commenting certain code because I did not want to run that code.
Right. Yeah.
Right, but here in JUnit you don't have to actually do that. How will you do that? You will just say @ignore. You will just add @ignore and that test case will not run.
Okay.
Okay, so it's very simple to understand. So let me add some more, and I would side by side do JUnit test cases. So I'm not. This is not for a one file. Here I can definitely write pass another file. If you see this, I just have to pass another file, and you can also search. Let's say you want to search for a particular key. So just give me a second. You want to search for a particular key here. So you pass the key also here, string key. So that depends on your logic, how you want to write the code.
Okay. Okay. Got it.
Okay.
Thanks, Shilpi.
Another method here. This method reads all key value pairs from a file. So in the previous one, we were just checking for two. This is our customized. So let's say we want to make it more generalized. I just want to print all the key value pairs in a particular properties file. So I'm writing the method again. So public boolean print all key value. And here also I'm passing the path. Boolean return is equal to false. Turn RET. Okay. So again I would be creating a property. I'm putting it into a try catch block. Create the properties object. And then what you need to do, create the input string. And then load the properties object with the input string. Okay. So once you load, there is a method called here entry set. And it returns a set. Set pairs is, but this is only giving you keys. and this is let me add this to, we need to import. So this is part of the collection, and then you have to use an iterator to iterate through all these entry sets. So let's say here I would say write iterator IT is equal to pairs dot iterator while IT dot next dot has next dot next. Okay, and in the last also we forgot to close the handle, so never forget that. Otherwise, it could be a, you know, if in is not equal to null in dot close. Okay, and here I would be giving the file not found exception. And here I would say return is equal to false. This is IO exception. Here also you can write return is equal to false. So if there is any exception, automatically the return will be false. Okay, otherwise return would be true. And here you can say everything is clear, return is equal to true. And what is this going to print? Let me see. Because this dot entry set is returning the entry object. So we need to, let me just put this into each dot get key, comma, each dot get value. And you can write here string key is equal to each dot get key. I know this is a little overwhelming. You would be learning this in the next class, how to deal with the collections. You can write here like this. So key plus equal to plus value. Okay, so this is a little tricky. I know this is you may not be able to understand. So let's try to first run this. And this is the method print all key value pairs. So I'm writing another method, public void test all key values. You can give any name, and put a try catch, assertion, failed error, and here again you have to create the object. So I'm just creating that object again. And here I would call p.print all key. So string actual is equal to this. And again we have to do a search true, actual. And the same thing we will be writing here also. And instead of this, you can write here all KV. Okay, so let me just briefly go through again. So what we are doing again, we created the properties object. We created the file input stream, loaded the property. Now to get the key value pair, there is a tricky way. We'll call it map. Map means this entry is an object which stores key value pair. Please do not go deep into it. Just try to understand the code. I will explain this in the next class. So when we will do collections, you will be able to know what is set, what is iterator, and what is entry. So this is the code to actually get the entire key value pairs in the set, and you have to iterate because we don't know how many key value pairs. It can be 2, it can be 10, it can be 20, it can be anything. Okay, and while there are more, like this loop will continue and it will read all the lines in the text file, and it.next is, this is basically giving you, this is first line. Then again the loop runs, it will give the next line. So this will keep on running, and it will first get the key and then it will also get the value, and we are printing this out. So let's ignore the previous one. I want to ignore this test, so what I can do, I can write here @ignore, and let's run this. So if you see here, password is equal to WBQA, username is equal to HR. So these are the key value pairs that have been found. Now let's say I want to read a big file. So let's try to find some big file. Okay, so let's say instead of whatever it is, like let me add these two in currency properties file save. So let's do instead of this currency property and run this. So if you see this, all the 4 properties have been retrieved from the properties file. Okay. From custom properties file. Custom properties file, those properties files which you would be using to store some key value pairs. So generally like some server configurations, some database configurations, URL configurations, companies would be using these .properties file. They use the same, on the same pattern, they use .config files also. So if you are using Java, .properties is more popular than .config. Okay. Then one more thing is, if you see here, we all the time we go and edit the system variables. You see the system variables? So these are all system properties. This is the key, this is the value, right? Key value, key value. This also you can read in your Java program. So there would be certain instances where you have to read from the system variable, like we have to edit the system properties. So you can write the same program. So let me write the method. This method reads all the system properties. Okay. So there's a small change in this method. I'm just copy pasting the entire method with a little change. With the method public Boolean read the system properties. And here we do not have to give any path because we are not reading from a file, we are reading from the system. Okay. So return is equal to false and return RET. And let me just copy paste. Here I will make little changes. Instead of reading from the file, what I'll do here, I would say system dot get property, and the rest of the thing are just exactly the same. So what are we doing? System dot get properties means it will get all the key value pairs and it will return a property object. So I'm initializing the properties with this property object. So automatically it will get uploaded. This property would be set by this, and you don't even have to load this. Just remove this. So here we are not reading from the file, we are just reading from the system. And let's run this. Since we do not have any file here, so we don't need a catch statement also. So I'm removing the try also. Okay. So what I'm just reading the system dot get properties in and loading into the this properties object, and then I'm doing the iteration and just printing the key value pair. Now let's say I want to call this in my JUnit test case. So I'll write another test case @test and public void test this read from system. And again I have to create the object. And see here what we are doing, we are creating the object every time for every method. Can we create the object just once and use that object for all the test cases? We can do that, right? So what I do, I'll create a before @before method, and public say setup. You can use any other name also, and import it from .junit. Create a properties object here, properties prop. My properties, and in the setup, so say prop is equal to new my properties. So you don't have to actually call this statement again and again. So I'm just removing it on from all my methods. So I'm not creating it inside the method. I'm just creating reading it at once. So similarly for this test case also, this test case I really do I need this, so I would say, and you can create as equal to new. So prop dot, just call that method which we want, prop dot read system properties, and say boolean actual is equal to this, and assert dot assert true actual. Okay, and it's always a good practice to write in which test case you are, so you can always start your test case like this. Running test read prop. Okay, so the more descriptive your report, it's really good for the system. Read prop 1, and here you can write test all heavy read from system. Okay, so now let's run this. So right click and say run as JUnit test, and here if you see there are 4. Okay, so I think we haven't, it's not printing anything from this one. Running test read, this is the result from the first, this is from second, this is from the third. Okay, from system it is not reading, so we'll try to debug it again. Okay, so how are we going to debug? Just put a toggle here, toggle the breakpoint, and then run this. And you have to now debug as JUnit test. So it will stop at that one. Okay, we need to run through this. We already had a breakpoint for the other one. Mm. Let me just remove this breakpoint. We already put one breakpoint, right, for the previous method. I need to remove that. Yeah. So I'm disabling the breakpoint. So I have just one breakpoint here in read system properties. Okay, great. So let's run this again. We need to debug that. Okay, so we are here. It is giving null. I don't think it loaded anything. Okay, so this system.get properties is not working. Let me see. So how are we going to debug? We can put this into, you can write it like this. Okay, now let's run this again. Okay, now if you see, all the properties have been extracted from the system. Do you see this? There are so many properties. So these are all your system properties. And this is the system properties for JVM. So these system properties means the properties which are set by the JVM. This you will be getting. So tomorrow when you will be working with Chrome and Firefox browser, then also you might have to just get some properties, some change properties, all those kind of things. Okay. And this is one of the utility classes. Now there are certain other utility classes. One more important utility class is date class. A lot of times, just like if you remember in SQL, we can print the date in different formats. We can get the calendar values. Okay, so these kind of things you can do it in date class also. For example, let's say in your report, this is your report you are creating, right? In this report, you want to also write the time at which the test started. Okay, so how to do this? So let's write a method here. So it will tell you the current system time. This method will print the current system time. So say public string get system time. So string str is equal to null, and I'm return str. Okay, so I'm doing this using the calendar API. So calendar, say cal is equal to calendar dot get instance then cal path dot get time, which returns me date object. So date is cal.get time, and then you can, and this is part of java.util, and then you can there is an API called simple date format. Simple. Let's first try to print this and see what is the format for this. Let's convert this into a string is equal to date dot to string. I'm converting into the string and I'm returning that string value. Okay, and in my properties, in my test class, I am creating another test method. There is test public void test date and here I am now calling prop dot get system date, and it is returning me a string. So to check whether this is actually returning a string, what should be my assertion here? Assert dot assert not null, and here I can say date. Okay, and let's run this. Okay, and it is giving me the right, like it has passed. So did you see how did I run this? If I wanted to just run this test, I can just simply select this test and right click and say run as JUnit test. So only that test would be run, and you can see the screen also, like the console. Okay, it's not printing anything. Let us print the system date also. It's out. So let's print it here. If str is not equal to null, just out str. Okay, so I'm just running this test. If you see this is the system date that we are getting. Now let's say, yeah. So here we are, although asserting the date is not equal to null, so this is the first assertion we are making, right? We can do in the same test case, we can do more than one assertions also. I want to assert that date is not null, and I also want to assert that date, this particular string contains 23, right? So I can write here assert dot assert true date dot contains 23. Okay. So let's run this. So I'm just running this particular method, and it is the date contains 23, right? That's the reason it is true. Now what? So what will happen if this particular thing fails? Is it going to do the next assertion? Yes or not? No. Let's say this assertion fails. Okay. So this assertion fails. When the assertion fails, what happens? For that, test is aborted. That means the next line is not executed. The test ends here only. This line is never executed because an exception is thrown. An exception is thrown here, and this line is never executed. So this assertion is never took place. Okay. So what happens is, This is called hard assertion. These are called hard assertions. Hard assertions means if one assertion fails, the next will not, the test case would fail. Okay. So in JUnit, if you remember Selenium IDE, we have verifications also. In verify and assert. Verify means it just your test case still continues. It does not abort. It just gives you a warning that the test case has that this assertion is failed or this verification failed, but the test continues with the next verification. But when you do assertion, assertion means it's hard. Your test case completely fails. But in some cases, but verify statements are there in Selenium ID, but verify statements are not there in JUnit. So in JUnit, what you have to do? Let's say, what I need to do, I need to put this into a try-catch block. Because you know that if we try-catch, let's say, let's do one thing. So let's say I put this into try-catch. Assertion failed error. And here I would say without, and here you can say string returned null or something. Okay. But since it is a try-catch block, this would still go to the next assertion. So let me print here something. Before assertion 2. Let's create a scenario in which this the first assertion fails. Okay. So I'm just changing the code here. Instead of this, I am deliberately returning the null. Return null. When I'm returning the null, my first assertion should fail, right? This is my first assertion. This should fail. Okay, let's run this. So I'm running this particular test state. Right? It ran. And let's see the console. If you see this, although it ran, but it still went through the next assertion before assertion 2. That means the next assertion also went through. Okay. And the next assertion through the Java null point error because date is null here. I'm doing null dot contains. That's the reason it threw me an exception. So this exception is at this line. But my point is it still executed the next assertion. So this is called writing your own soft assertion. So I'm converting the hard assertions to soft assertions by putting it into the try-catch block. And I am just calling assert dot assert not null without the
try-catch.
Right, without try-catch. Okay. So let's run this again. Now if you see this, it says assertion failed error, and if you see the window console, it did not print the next line. It did not print the before assertion 2. That means it never reached here.
Yes, it is not going to the next line. Yeah,
yes,
I got.
Because my test case failed here only. This is hard assertion. Okay.
Okay, Shilpi, I got.
Right. So in one test case, you can do more than one assertion. But if you want to stop the test case, then you do it hard assertion. Like then don't put it in try-catch. If you want to make it a soft assertion, means your test case would still continue. For example, let's say I am testing this particular website, W3 Schools. Okay. In the same test case, I am checking that this heading should be learned to create websites, and I am also testing that try it yourself editor is there. Okay. So for this, I want to make it soft assertions. Means even if this is not there, at least check for this one. Go ahead. Okay.
Yes.
So I'll
Okay.
put this into try catch. But let's say I am testing whether this page is loaded. I should make it as a hard assertion, because unless and until the page is loaded, I cannot go ahead. Right?
Yeah, right, Shilpi. I got it now. Thanks, Shilpi.
Okay. API called simple date format. I'm not actually going through the API. There is an API called simple date format. Use that API to format how the date appears on the screen. So that API is called simple date format, and it can be used to format how date shall be displayed. So Google and find out how to use this so that you can use this. Okay. Now moving on to the other utility classes. So there are n number of utility classes, but most of important is date, calendar. Sometimes Gregorian calendar is also used. It is used in just the same way as the calendar. Then we have random. Random is a class which is used to generate a string of random numbers. So you can find a random int, random byte. So that is actually a very useful class also. So you can use this one as well. Moving on to the other parts of collection. So I will start the collection from tomorrow. Today I want to take one topic called Java serialization. This is actually the topic which was left in the file IO. What does Java serialization mean? Java serialization means converting the byte into string, converting the object into string. For example, let's say you have a class called student class, right? In student class, you are storing student ID and you are storing name and everything. So I think we already created this class, right? Yeah. See here, we created the student class where we are storing the student ID, name and date of birth, right? So when I am creating the objects of this class, I think we created the objects here in the array operation. So how do we create the objects using students? Let me add within file operations only. Java IO. This method converts the object into string. Public void create student file, and I am just passing the path which file the new file name that needs to be created. So here let me create a student object. So student S1 is equal to new student, and here just import it from the basic, and here pass the ID, name, and what is the third one? Date of birth. Okay. Okay. So this is, I'm creating a student. Similarly, I can create more than one student. This is when I create this object is created in the memory, right? Now I want to store this object information into a file. How can I store that? That process is called serialization. So serialization is a process which converts the object into stream. How can we do that? We can do that using an API which is called object output stream. So what I'll do, I'll create an object like object output stream is equal to new object output stream, and here just give the path. This should be string, I guess. Okay, let me just see. Okay, so you have object output stream. Okay. So you have output stream out, and here you can say obj is equal to new file output stream 50 path, and here 50 out. And then you will have to write out dot write object. This is obj dot write object, and pass the object here s1. Okay, and then what you need to do, you just need to close the stream. So where should we close the stream? We need to close the stream outside. So let me just write it here. And then finally, what we'll do, we'll just close these two streams. So we'll first close obj dot close, and then we will do out dot close. And for both of them, use if obj is not equal to null, then do this, and if out is not equal to null, do this, and put this into try catch block. IO exception. Okay. Okay, so let me explain it again. What are we doing here? We are creating an object, right? And see, when my program completes, that object is removed from the memory, but I don't want to remove it. I want to store that object into a file. So what I'm creating an output stream, and I'm creating an object output stream and initializing into this. So you can actually write the entire thing into one line also, but this is also how you can do. Then I'm writing the object. So obj.write object S1. This S1 is the object which is being written onto the file, and then I'm closing the file. And let's save this, and I'm calling this into the file operations test. So string file path 5 is equal to, so I have to create a new file. Let's say here I am writing here student dot ser. Save it. Let me comment the entire thing. And then call that method x dot create student file, and this is file path 5. And one more thing, whenever for a class which you want to serialize, you have to implement it with the interface. So implement, there is an interface called serializable. You have to implement it, otherwise it will not serialize. Okay, and now let's run this. What I'm just calling this create student file, and okay, let's run this. So let's see if that SER is created. If you see this, student.ser is created. If I try to open with the notepad, let's say I open it with notepad, it will give me some junk because this is the objects are being stored here, right? Let me try to open it in notepad. If you see this, all these junk elements are there because the object is stored here. So to deserialize it, deserialize means an object file you are creating in another object, or to you need to write another program. That process is called deserialization. So deserialization means converting the stream from file into object. So this is called deserialization. So we cannot read this directly. We need to deserialize it. So what I'll do, I'll create another method here. Let's say I'm creating, and this method reads that file. So this method reads .str file. And let's write the method public void read student file, and let's say here I have to again give the path. The object input stream is equal to null. So I have to write first file not found exception, and then I have to catch IO exception also. and you need to import it from Java IO. And here you will say in is equal to new object input stream, and here you can write directly file input stream, and here you can write the path. So I'm reading the file from the path mentioned here, and I would say in dot read object, and this should give me some student object, right? So I'm creating a student. Say S is equal to null, and here S would be equal to this. I would just typecast it to student. So it will read the student object into this, and then if you want you can print it. And it also throws class not found exception. Why? Because it has to find this particular student class to convert this object into student. And then if you want, you can just print it on the screen. Say ID is equal to S dot should give me, right? S dot is it not given? Okay, this needs to be public. See, if I make it default, then it won't be available outside the package, right? So I have to make it public so that it is available outside the package also. So then now it should give me s.sid s.name s.name. Okay. So what I'm doing here, I'm reading the file and I'm converting the stream of bytes into the object, and I'm printing it on the screen. So this is called deserialization. So let's run this in the test. So we can comment this because file is already created. So I'm just reading read student file and I'm giving the same path. And I say run as Java application. And Windows console. Oh, did not print anything. Okay, let me see why I did not print. So let's debug again, put it here, toggle, and student.str, it should be there, right? Student.str is there. Okay, let's debug this. debug as an application. Not running. Give me a second. I think it's got stuck or something. Extension of the file is .xcr, which tells me it's not a text-based file. It is a binary file. It can be any other extension apart from a standard extension. Like it should not be txt, it should not be csv or dot properties. These kind of extensions should not be used. Okay. So let's start here. Okay, so here, oh, there is an I exception here. It's not able to read the object. Okay, so we need to catch the exception. So write the exception trace. Here you can write e dot print stack trace. Okay, I probably think okay, it should be. We did not close the handle here. Okay, so if n is not equal to null, if in is not equal to null. In dot close okay, let me check again if I have missed something. Dot read object, yeah, it should be fine. This read object is throwing an exception, so we need to find out why is it, what exception it is throwing. Okay, so it says local class incompatible. Okay, I think we changed the class right before serialization. So that's the reason now it is giving us the error. Let's create the class again. I'm not sure why it is giving us the error. Let's create this class again. Now I think it's not even creating the class. Okay. Okay. If you see this, now it is reading also and writing also. See, this is what it is reading. Now it must have created the class. Yeah, it is created the file, and it is in the next method it is reading from that file and printing it on the screen. Right? So this is called Java deserialization. So this method is serialization, and this method is deserialization. Okay, and one more thing is, if I here add any field, I write here transient. Transient means do not serialize this. So when I'm writing transient here, let's do one thing. Let's delete this. Transient means that that particular variable will not be copied into the file. So when I'm creating this, it will not be copied. So let's run this again. So transient means that particular variable will not be copied. Let's run this again and see. And it should create that file here. Yeah, it has created the file, and now see the console. If you see this, here name is equal to null. So name was not copied into the file when it created the file. So transient will stop you from copying it to the stream. That is called a transient variable, and it's an interview question. Another thing is, if you add any static variable here, let's say I add static here, then that variable also will not be copied. Okay, so let's do this again. Let me delete this, because static variables are not attached to a particular object, so that means that will not be copied there. So I'm running this again. And let's see the console. Needs to be deleted. So static will have the same value for every object, and I'm not sure why is it printing. No, it's printing. Statics are also getting printed. Okay, I didn't knew that statics will also get copied, but because static values have all values are same. I didn't know that. It should not be copied here. Anyway, okay. So let me just write down these points regarding deserialization and deserialization. So here, transient variables are those which do not get serialized while converting from object to stream. Okay. Static variables holds the same value for all the objects. Okay. I still have to confirm whether they are copied or not. Anyways, let this shows that it is copied, but according to me, it should not get copied. Okay. So this is what I wanted to cover in Java serialization, and it is an important interview question.